First up, our top focus. India and China held the 31st meeting of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on Border Affairs in Beijing, signaling some positive developments over the border standoff. India announced that both sides engaged in a frank, constructive and forward-looking discussion to address the situation. India says the goal of the discussion was to reduce differences and reach a prompt resolution to the outstanding issues. India's Ministry of External Affairs also announced that both countries agreed to increase communication through diplomatic and military channels. The ministry says the two sides had a frank, constructive and forward-looking exchange of views on the situation along the line of actual control to narrow down the differences and find early resolution of all outstanding issues. Using the term narrow down the differences in the talks suggests progress in the negotiations. Now, in the meantime, the two countries have decided to jointly uphold the peace and tranquility on the ground in border areas in accordance with relevant bilateral agreements, protocols and understandings reached between Delhi and Beijing. It was reiterated that the restoration of peace and tranquility and respect for the LAC are the essential basis for the restoration of normalcy in bilateral relations. The leader of the Indian delegation also called on the Vice Minister of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The timing of the meeting and the outcome assumes significance after Kremlin's statement that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has confirmed his readiness to take part in the BRICS summit in Kazan in Russia in October. It will provide the Prime Minister and the Chinese President Xi Jinping an opportunity to meet on the sidelines of that summit. And well, for more on this, we spoke to the former Indian diplomat Ambassador Anil Trigunayath. He has served in the Indian missions in Bangladesh, in US and Russia and many more. We asked Ambassador Trigunayath about the ongoing situation between India and China and the efforts to resolve the LAC tensions at this 31st meeting in Beijing.
Well, both sides, as you know, are meeting the 31st time. This is the WMCC's 31st meeting. And this meeting has been prodded by the recent meeting that Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar had with Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Beijing. And I think that both sides had agreed that we must make genuine efforts to resolve the differences to the extent possible. India's position has been very clear from the very beginning that the Galwan was a basic buster of the trust between the two countries, and the trust became the biggest casualty. And therefore, we need to develop the trust. And the India's position is that China should go back to or we must have the same situation as it was pre-April 2020, means before the Galwan clash. With some partial, as you know, success was achieved in the past. For example, there was a disengagement at 5 friction points that happened, whether the Pansos, North and South Banks, or the patrolling points, 15 and 17A. Then we had Gogra Hot Springs and all. But the major ones that stuck out, and that is the Demchok and Demsang. Now, those are the areas in which the discussions could have been. Now, both sides have a different perception. The LAC has always been a contested area. LAC's perception from India's point of view is different than what is China. And that is the reason that there are always different interpretations that come along, and they have to be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy. That's what India has been always saying. Now, there is definitely, this is what I mean is the narrowing down the perception, differences that exist on particular points, especially currently in the case of these, the remaining 2 areas, Demsang and Demchok. Hopefully they will be there, and they have agreed to respect the line of control. That is something really good. And there should be a mutual sensitivity and mutual respect, as Dr. Jaishankar has always been saying. So frankly, it is that this should continue to move forward, the talk, and they should try to resolve these differences.
Ambassador Trigunard, they're responding to the intensifying of talks that has been put in the readout, and also, of course, the fact that they will narrow down differences. We also asked the ambassador what he thinks about the timing of the India-China border meeting in Beijing and its significance, and whether the two nations are preparing ground for a Modi-Xi conversation on the sidelines of the BRICS meet in October.
It is quite possible. I mean, it could even be in September in New York. It could even be here in BRICS. At the end of the day, we are both important partners of the BRICS founding members. So it's quite possible. Prime Minister Modi has confirmed to President Putin that he'll be attending, and I'm sure President Xi will also be coming there. So there is a possibility of them meeting. In any case, we are working together on many multilateral and plurilateral institutions. So that's quite possible. But for anything that happens, there has to be certain kind of a trust and confidence in the relationship. The meeting is not for the heck of meeting. Meeting is to arrive at some solutions and to address the issues. And between India and China, border remains the major issue.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.